But as life in the real world, kind of set in, I realized it probably wasn't really that realistic at the time to do it. But then when I saw that there was the potential that I could go and have multiple PEs, I reached out to my state board and inquired about that, and they confirmed that yeah, if you want to take the PE exam in electrical, if you can pass that, that will credential you as both an electrical engineer and the mechanical engineer that I already was. I realized I would spend time reading, I'd spend time on social media or whatnot. After after the day was done, and by cutting those out and reallocating that same amount of time towards studying for the electrical PE, I was able to immediately just start learning, start making progress towards being prepared for it. Sometimes if something wasn't clicking immediately, or maybe if not immediately, if something wasn't clicking and I'd already spent a significant amount of time, wrestling with it, I would move on and then I'd come back and reapproach it when I was fresh.
Hi, Ryan.
Hey, how's it going today?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing quite well.
So, Ryan, congratulations on passing your P Power exam. And thanks for making time for this call. And your story is interesting, Ryan, just upfront because you're a mechanical PE who got the P Power done in the first attempt. So, that's sort of a unique scenario. I would like you to sort of give me a little bit of an overview, a little bit of a background when you graduated, when you took your FE and then the PE mechanical, and then what prompted you to basically get into the PE power space.
Sure. So I graduated with a degree in mechanical and energy engineering in 2019, and I took my FE in the mechanical the same year. I took it the same semester that I graduated in. So that kind of helped me get started as an EIT. And then as soon as I was finished with the EIT, I took my mechanical PE. So that was about a year and a half ago. And at the time, I was not sure if it was possible to add multiple PEs or not. But when I went to the PE roster, after your name, it says, your name has the branch that you got your PE in. Mine said mechanical and then had a comma, and it looked like there was a space to add more on. And I'd been interested in a while in electrical, just because of exposure to some of the projects that we'd had. I'd done a Khan Academy course just on some electrical engineering stuff, and that really kind of appetized me. And at one point, I was even thinking about going back for a second major for electrical, but as life in the real world, kind of set in, I realized it probably wasn't really that realistic at the time to do it. But then when I saw that there was the potential that I could go and have multiple PEs, I reached out to my state board and inquired about that, and they confirmed that yeah, if you want to take the PE exam in electrical, if you can pass that, that will credential you as both an electrical engineer and the mechanical engineer that I already was. So that's really what sent me down that path. And then I started kind of self studying myself, and I felt like I was making some progress, but it was very clear that there's other things that required a lot more in depth information than what I had access to, and that's ultimately what led me to your program.
Right. No, thanks a lot for that background. And it's really impressive because, as you know, the P exams are very difficult, right? Both FE and P exams are difficult. And you were already mechanical P, so you had an idea of what you were getting into, the level of detail, the depth that you basically have to understand the concepts. Now, the P Power exam is not an easy exam. As you can see, I mean, you've gone through that exercise. You spent multiple months studying, and in your particular case, because you didn't have the electrical background, it made it even more challenging. So, for somebody who is starting the P Power exam preparation, right, and you got it done in the first attempt, by the way. So, what was your approach? How, knowing that there are going to be a lot of topics that you're probably going to be exposed to, at least in that level of detail, for the very first time. I understand that the space that you operate in, your workplace, your employer, your industry, so you have overlap between mechanical and electrical, right?
Mhm.
But obviously, that alone is not sufficient to help you prepare for all the theoretical background that is required in order to pass this challenging exam. So, from the get go, what was your mindset? Because, in my opinion, if that can be replicated even by folks who have electrical background, right? If you using that mindset, that approach, were able to pass the P power exam, then folks who already have the electrical background, I think it should be fairly simple and straightforward for them.
The first thing I did was I cut out extraneous activities, in the evenings. Like a lot of times, I realized I would spend time reading, or I'd spend time on social media, or whatnot. After after the day was done, and by cutting those out and reallocating that same amount of time towards studying for the electrical PE, I was able to immediately just start learning, start making progress towards being prepared for it. I didn't have at that point necessarily the right direction with what I was studying. It was kind of all over the place, I would say. There was a lot of holes that I had to fill in, before I could even really make meaningful progress in studying for the PE. There was just a lot of background content that I just had to bring myself up to speed on. What does this term, even mean? That sort of thing.
Right. So I'm sure that a lot of people are actually freeing or trying to free their time in the evenings and trying to create the schedule. But um, so I think on average, everybody tries to put in like 15 to 20 hours a week. In your case, you might have gone a little bit beyond that. But if I can rephrase the question, like when you were coming across these new terms that you had not seen before, right? The new concepts, the new theories, the new formulas, new equations, the new diagrams. How did you tackle them? Like, were you using first principle approach, or what was your methodology when things were like frustrated? Did you ever feel like, maybe I've on my plate something that I cannot handle, or it's a wrong decision, or like what was your frame of mind? Because number of hours, I know there are a lot of folks who probably are putting more time than you as well. So that's probably not the single deciding factor.
Yeah, I would say time wise, I probably put in anywhere between 20 and 30 hours in a week, probably closer to 20 at the beginning of the program, and probably closer to 30 by the end of the program, and just kind of ramping up as we went. As far as the approach, I would say I'm just a very determined individual. I don't really give up that easily. When things got hard, I would just keep sticking it out until I got it. There's a few subjects where maybe that really came into play. Sometimes if something wasn't clicking immediately, or maybe if not immediately, if something wasn't clicking and I'd already spent a significant amount of time, wrestling with it, I would move on, and then I'd come back and reapproach it when I was fresh.
Right. No, I think perseverance is the key. So in your case, you never second doubted, right? Second guessed yourself, right? That's the impression I'm getting. Because, and that is very important. I wanted to extract that from you because the fact of the matter is that these exams beat people down, right?
Yeah.
You are halfway through and you're like, oh, I'm only done 50% and so much time and effort, I'm making so many sacrifices. Well, if your goal is to pass these exams and get the license, to be honest, you'll have to make many sacrifices, and you would have to have a laser focus. When you are studying, it has to be studying, right? And if there's something that is not clicking with you, exactly as you said, just make a note of it and come back to it, right? So although these are very simple and straightforward recommendations, suggestions, tips, advice, whatever you want to call them, implementing them over an extended period of time, on a weekly basis consistently, I think the discipline comes into play, right? And you mentioned that you're a determined individual, so I know for sure, like, it's not an easy task to go from mechanical to electrical, and I think that your runway was a little bit longer as well. You gave yourself what, 6 months, correct?
I started my own self study in December 2022, and I had looked at one of the program that I did for the mechanical. They had an electrical offering. I first started that, and not at all to knock the program. Very well might have been sufficient for somebody that had a full 4 year degree and had their FE and everything in electrical. But just for me, it wasn't enough information. It makes more sense now if I go back and look at that material, but at the time I didn't have the depth of information on those subjects to make any heads and tails of it. And then I bought Theodore Wilde's book. I don't have it sitting in front of me, but it's the I think you referenced it.
Yeah, it's a very popular textbook in power systems. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I looked at his book. I went through several of the chapters. I felt like it was really good information, but maybe I was getting too much in the weeds on certain topics. Like I was maybe going too deep in some sections and maybe not getting the enough material in other sections. So I knew that I needed to do more. I'd come across your um, reference to your program before, I believe on Reddit, in your self study guide with 700 plus questions. So I bought that and I started kind of looking at the questions and working through it. And I realized, well, okay, maybe I can do this question over here, maybe I can do that question over here. But at some point, I need to find some content that explains these topics that these questions are covering, because I'm not seeing any kind of material that goes through these through these topics. So I started looking at your program online, and that's that's at the point that I signed up for it. So yeah, I guess by that point it had been 6 months had already elapsed, and yeah, I'd already been studying kind of off on, but not super long hours necessarily at that point in time. It wasn't. By the time I started your course, I think I had 4 months, 3 or 4 months to study.
And you were in my program for roughly 6 months on top of that, right?
No, I was in the what are the options? Was it 3 months, 4 months?
Really? Okay. Okay. I didn't realize that. So all in all, roughly 6 to 7 months of preparation, give or take, right? So that's really impressive. Um, how did you utilize my program? How did it help you prepare for the exam?
Yeah, it really helped a lot. I had already got a running start on the live training before the live training began. I'd already gotten a running start on the on-demand portion, so I was already like 3 chapters into it at least before you begin the live. So I kind of maintained that mismatch throughout the course because time was a constraint for me. I couldn't really wait for the live to kind of catch up. So I was always kind of working a little bit ahead in the on-demand stuff, um, and then kind of going back and watching the live training and solidifying um, that some of those topics. Maybe there was something that didn't quite click, or maybe I thought I understood but didn't fully understand. So I really think the live training helped a lot, diving into some of those deeper topics. But yeah, I spent a lot of time going through the on demand stuff, solved every problem, took all the quizzes, took the practice exams, which I thought were huge. That was really beneficial um, for kind of letting me see where I was already at and where some of those weak links maybe still resided.
Right. Yeah. So you utilize all the resources practically. The study guide, the on demand, the practice exams, and the live training. So, and put in a lot of time and effort in between. You were asking questions and everything. So I had no doubt that you were going to get it done in the first attempt. Now, post exam, so once you've passed the exam, you got on your electrical PE. Um, how do you feel about your electrical knowledge now? Are you a little bit more comfortable and confident around concepts when you're working on projects? And has it helped you outside of just passing the exam?
Yeah, it definitely has. So, I still work for a company that does primarily mechanical engineering, but I think we're looking to broaden the scope of the projects that we're taking on. We're starting to look at electrical projects. I'm the only double E currently with the company, so there is some limitation to what we take on in house. We would still maybe sub out something that would be maybe outside of my comfort zone. But yeah, so I mean, I've definitely increased the depth of my knowledge manyfold after going through your program and after taking the test, passing the test. It gave a big confidence boost to me, not just in terms of um, my skill set specifically to electrical engineering or mechanical engineering, but just kind of as a whole, as an individual, what I'm able to accomplish. And I would say it changed the way peers look at me too. I can tell that they talk to me a little bit differently than they used to. So that's been really awesome.
Right. And you probably noticed that even folks who had the electrical background, when you're preparing for this exam, some of the very fundamental stuff, even if you have the 4 years of degree in electrical engineering, because bachelor's, undergraduate in US and Canada, based on my observation, tends to be very broad. You don't really specialize in any one field very deeply. So you might have they even those folks might have taken one or two or three courses maximum in power systems, right? So at the end of the day, even the ones who have experience, who have double E degrees, when they start preparing for the P exam, and especially in the live training, the discussions that we have, in depth, analyzing different concepts and looking at things from the first principles, they find it very beneficial as well. So this is a great achievement, Ryan, and a well earned goal, a well earned milestone, career milestone, and a feather in your cap. And it's a great confidence booster, as you said. I mean, it tells you that if you can get this done, then anything that you set your mind on with the same strategy, same approach, and same level of commitment, better, great things await you in your career ahead.
I really appreciate that. Yeah, it was a wonderful experience getting to go through your program, and I don't know that I would have passed it on the first attempt had I not found your program. So huge shout out to you on that as well.
Thanks a lot, Ryan. If you like this video, then please don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Feel free to ask me any questions in the comment section of this video below. You can find tons of success stories of my FE Electrical and PE Power students over here. And if you want to learn more about preparation of FE Electrical and Computer exam and the PE Power exam, then check out these playlists over here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon in the next video.